Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Good morning. Having fun this morning.
Yeah, for our listeners who can't see us, we do have a YouTube version of the side dish. It's on Mark McNease's channel, also called Made Mark, because that's how I started on YouTube. It was Made Mark. But anyways, I just sort of like zoomed into the camera, so I'm describing it for them. Welcome to another side dish. Happy
That's right.
weekend, because that's.
Halloween weekend. Halloween weekend is still kind of lingering. It's All Saints Day today, November 2nd. So happy horror days.
Did you dress up?
No, I didn't. I was down in New Orleans, as you know, and watched a lot of people dressed up. But I see you might have. You got a little red on your head, or is that just from your headset there?
It's my headphones. We had dinner in the Village on Friday night, Greenwich
Oh, that'd have
Village.
been crazy.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I live in New York City with Frank, my husband. We had dinner in the Village, and of course, it's a mob scene. The Village Parade started out like a handful of, sort of bohemian drag queen types years ago, and now it's massive. It's been completely taken over by mainstream people, and it's huge. It's so we didn't go to the parade. You could see people dressed up all over the street, but we just had dinner and went home.
My
So
favorite costume. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go on.
Oh, and my favorite costume was Ellen DeGeneres. Did you see? She said you should always dress up with someone you'll never be. So she dressed up as Mrs. George Clooney, saying she'd never marry a man.
Oh yeah,
She,
she had a man doll attached to her.
yeah, George Clooney was attached to her, and she's dressed like his wife, and it was pretty funny. That was
It
cool.
was very cute.
She's
Now,
funny.
before we start the dish, just to let people know that we have an email account now, an email address for our many listeners. They might want to email us and say, "Love what you guys are doing." They might want to hear about a particular topic, and they can do that. It's at thesidedish@outlook.com.
The side dish at outlook.com. That's
Yes.
what Andy does for Conan. That's what, Ed McMahon used to do for Johnny. I just repeat what you say. ThesideDish.com.
No, the side dish at outlook.com. And not side dish because that's somebody else's email. So we don't want
Yeah,
to,
the
we don't
side
want to
dish
shock
at
anybody.
outlook.com. So what's on your mind, Mark?
Today,
What?
November 2nd, is my late mother's birthday. And she was born in I'm going to say 1920.
Wow.
She died in 99, and today was her birthday. And you and I had talked about this last week. And my mother was like this huge influence in my life. In my mystery series, Kyle Callahan Mysteries, the fourth one's coming out in like a couple weeks.
Amazon.com.
Right. There's a restaurant where Kyle's now husband Danny works at a restaurant called Margaret's Passion. But anyways, I
Oh,
named the restaurant after my mother and her passion. She was a very passionate woman. There's a downside to that because when you were on her bad side, it was not pretty. But she was very intense, very creative, very passionate, very opinionated, and very curious. I love curious people because they're willing to learn. My mother changed. When I came out at 16, it was really ugly and unpleasant and painful. But she changed over the years. I was her son. She loved me, and she grew, and I grew. And so, anyways, my mother was probably the most influential person in my life, if not one of just two or three. So who was yours, Rick?
well, I want to comment on that real quick because it was interesting. Women's Day put out an article in this current issue. If you haven't seen it, pick it up. It's the first story of a mother with her transgender son. I know you weren't transgender. I know you weren't. But it's called "The Son God Gave Me," and it talked a lot about this woman named. The article is about Gina Kentop and her son Kyle. And the editor, Susan Spencer, said that overall the comments have been extremely positive. But what I liked about it, Mark, was she said, I learned to accept my son and love my son because someone I had read said, instead of it, because she's a Christian woman, she said, instead of asking God to change my son, I asked God to change my heart. So read that story because I think it's moving, even though you're not transgender. For me, it was my great-grandmother born in 1992, a Bavarian immigrant to the United States. Actually, she was the first generation born on American soil, and just loved her with all my heart. There's little more I can say other than we called her Grandma Wheeler, or when we were kids, Grandma Wee Wee. But she was awesome.
Yes, and I'll just end by throwing that out there to anybody listening. Who was profoundly influential in your life. And it can be a bad way. It can be in a bad way too. But because so much of the time we think role models are celebrities or they're these people outside of our immediate sphere. But many, many, many times it's the people closest to us who really, truly shape who we are and who we become. So happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday. Boy, you guys have birthdays kind of back to back. That's
very
cool.
Close, yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple friends with birthdays this week too. Deborah, Anton, happy birthday to you both. Yeah, mine is about advertising and gay advertising. We've talked on the show before about how it's so common now. Last week we talked a lot about how you can walk down the street and see a wedding band on a man or woman, and it doesn't even, it's not even like, oh, are you married to a woman? Are you married to a man? Are you married to transgender? Whatever. It's just so commonplace. Married means married, and as our state numbers and the role of places you can get married is increasing, it's become so common. And I want to applaud those J.C. Penney's and all the people. Chevrolet recently used gays in advertising, so to speak, showing gay couples. Oh, nice! Get yourself a Kit Kat bar, Mark.
Yeah, that's my coffee cup. Remember,
I got it.
Not everybody is watching.
No, but you're advertising for Kit Kat. Hopefully, they'll write us at that new email and tell us they want to sponsor our show. But for a while there, it was soft. You saw these, Dish TV, was it? Or Direct TV did these two guys crashing through the wall, and turns out that they were boyfriends and they were watching their sports. So that kind of said, it's not just typical gay men. Nothing out by Starbucks. Have you seen it yet? Using the stars from Logo TV?
No, you're breaking up, but just keep going.
I don't know why. Can you hear me though?
Yeah.
I just go like that. It's wireless stuff. But anyway, the thing is, they're using the two drag queens from season 6 of RuPaul's show. So it's Adore Delano and Bianca Del Rio, and they're in a line at Starbucks, and I think it's Adore's in the front of the line, and Bianca's cutting to the front of the line because she really needs her Starbucks, and Adore's ordering a cup of a skinny. Of course, she's ordering a skinny latte with extra foam. It's very funny and very kitsch, and I just love it. It's coming out. I applaud Starbucks, man. I just, this year they hung the gay pride flag at their national headquarters. A couple years back when that gentleman on the board didn't like the decision for the chairman to back gay marriage, the chairman told him, remember, he said, take your stocks and sell them. I know someone else will buy your stocks. Go invest in another company. So here's to you, Starbucks. Look for that commercial. It's really cute. You can probably see it on YouTube already.
Well, I did read about it, of course, because I'm constantly staying on top of current events and news, as you know.
Yeah. And that is, it's really cute, though. I mean, it's really, really.
No, I know
really
that. I read about it. I haven't watched it, but I read about it.
It's
and also, it's just good to see. It's not such a shock anymore to see a gay couple or something like that in a commercial. It used to be like, oh my God, I can't believe did I just see that? So now it's not unusual now, and it's really nice.
Well, that's what I like, and they got to push beyond the commonplace and go ahead and do some fun things. So that's what I applaud them for. Can I hit that bell again?
Please.
You hit yours. Yours is wimpy. We both have bells, by the way, folks. If the bells annoy us, let us know.
Oh, but it's fun. It paces it.
If you like the bell,
let us know. The side dish at Outlook.com.
Outlook.com.
Well, the other day you sent me a link to you've got a mayor running there, or a woman running for mayor in Shreveport. I don't believe she's the current mayor. Ollie Tyler, right?
That's messy politics. 2 women front leaders, one black, one white, both dealing with issues in their lives that are coming out of the closet.
Well, anyway, yeah, and with Ollie Tyler, this is not my primary focus on this one, but she's, she shot an abusive spouse when, many years ago when she was 22 or something like, and so that was the news item, right? That's the big thing. She killed her spouse, right. But it was in the Shreveport Times, and somebody please tell them that forcing me to subscribe to read an article when I've never been there is really, really a bad idea. I'll never read your newspaper and online, and a lot of them do that now. Bugs the fuck out of me. I'm not doing it.
Call a firewall or some shit.
I'm sorry. Pardon my F word now. I apologize for that. But
that's okay. But back to the story.
Right. The comments. I'm checking out the comments on this story. She's black. Ollie Tyler is black. And the comments were so racist. Almost all of them. Very few addressed the fact that she defended herself against, a man who was beating her. But they were just really racist. And it reminded me of how much of a cesspool so many comment sections are. And even on reputable, sites, people can be really nasty. And there are some places that are considering banning anonymous commenting now. And it's because it brings out the worst in people. They get to hide behind some, moniker, like on Twitter. You could be anybody on Twitter. And I don't want to get sidetracked here, but it's just so toxic. And gay people do it too. I'm going to put that out there. There's a website, very high traffic gay website, really popular, but constantly putting out stuff about Christians. And then the comments are so nasty and so mean. And then he gets awards, as the best gay blog. But anyways, comment sections I got to take a shower after some of these. So I don't go into them. I rarely comment, and I rarely go into comment sections because I know what I'm in for, and it's ugly.
And Mark, so many people look at him when they're deciding to go to a restaurant. They go to spoon.com, they go to Yelp, and they'll read what other people think. And, it's like, I don't fucking even know you. I would rather call Mark and say, I'm in New York, Mark. Where do you and Frank decide to go to a restaurant? I get worked up about it because I haven't owned a restaurant, and the way people just freely whip out their comments. But what really pisses me off is the way people respond to those comments and act as if it's the word of God. And they follow those things. I agree with you. I didn't know there was discussion about blocking them or, some websites not using it. You're saying it's more of a, like, certain people won't use comments on their sites anymore, something like that. It's not like a law.
No. But I'm not going to say the HuffPost. I don't know if it was Salon.com or one of the huge sites was debating whether to stop anonymous commenting, meaning that if you comment, it's like Facebook. If you comment, you must put your name. You must, you can't go on there as Joe Funny whatever and say awful evil shit. They're trying to stop it because they're called trolls, internet trolls, and they're winning. They're winning because they're turning the internet into a really ugly, vulgar, unpleasant place to be.
Don't like it. Someone that didn't hide this week, and we have to talk about Tim Cook, 50 years old, by the way, so he's of our LGBTSR, CEO of Apple, largest corporation in America, close to largest in the world, coming out, saying it was a gift from God. One of the greatest gifts he got from God was being gay. I think it's important in many ways. Many people are like, why is it a big story? Well, it is a big story. It's all over the internet. It's all over print. I mean, so obviously it's a big story. That in itself is why it's a big story. So in other words, why does it have to be a big story that someone comes out and says they're gay when they're CEO of a Fortune 500 company? Why does that even have to be a big story? That's why it's a big story, if that makes sense. I think you'll follow me there. But I think it's awesome. I think in a day, Mark, where still 29 states can still, companies within 29 states can fire you for being LGBT. A survey was out last week just before it's coming out that was conducted by CNN, I think. Actually, it was conducted by HRC, but the story aired on CNN, talking about still half the LGBT people in the workplace are still closeted and not coming out. I think it's valid that a gentleman like him has come out and put a face to it. I think it's valid. It gives other CEOs and other leaders of companies a comfort factor. It gives other workers, it gives children something to model to. Who doesn't know the Apple? Who doesn't know, holding this up as a 10-year-old that's questioning your sexuality and going, oh my God, the man that double-digit this in 3 years of his life and doubled the income of this and made this something we want in his hands. That is, he's got to have a name, Mark, so much more powerful than Steve Jobs. People thought, who could ever replace Steve Jobs? But I think Tim Cook has. In what he's done as CEO, but also in his move to come out as the first out Fortune 500 CEO. So here's to you, Tim.
Right, and I applaud it too. At first, I reacted like a friend of mine. It was like, are we ever going to stop making a big deal out of people coming out? But it is a big deal because of his position. Because of it, it's a huge deal. And it reminds me of this 22-year-old congressional intern that I interviewed on the Age to Perfection podcast the other day, Ben Panico. He's 22 years old. He's transgender. And it is a big deal because, coming out opens the door for the next person to come out and the next person and the next person.
Yeah.
And we need that visibility still. I may wish we didn't, but we do.
We do. And we can make some choices in the election coming up Tuesday, which is our last subject for today's show.
Yes. Now we both had this, so let's just chat. Let's talk about this. I'm going to vote, but I said earlier in the green room, our famous, very famous green room,
with good food and treats.
excellent food, best coffee ever.
Oh my God!
You know where we get our coffee?
Where?
We get from the Cafe B.
Oh yeah, we sure do. Well, mine, by the way, is Cascara. You got to look it up. I'm not gonna tell you
Cascara,
what
I
it
love
is.
her song. She's got a new one.
Hey, your husband's very intimate with Cascara.
Cascada.
That's Cascada. We're kidding. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead, Mark.
voting, right. Voting, very important. Coming up here, but I'm not going to let it. I said I'm going to be the same person Wednesday that I was Tuesday. I'm going to vote. I'm going to do my thing, but it's going to be what it's going to be. If the Democrats keep the Senate, okay, fine. We're still going to have 2 more years of awfulness. If the Republicans can take it, it's just going to be a little bit more awful. So it's not screwing me up. I mean, I think it's important. I think it's a really important election, but I will not lose my perspective. I don't do that anymore. I try not to do that, not just about politics, but I'm really, really trying to be a mentally balanced person these days. And there's like so much less snark in Mark too,
Well,
because I just
like
want to
that.
keep my equilibrium. Your turn.
I miss the snark a little bit, but you got a little of it. You still got it. But to your point, you mentioned balance, and I was driving from New Orleans, and my friend Mary Thomas said, "You know what?" Because I was telling her how they being the evil Republicans, will take over the Senate with this Joni in Iowa, and who else is out there. But the point is, it all is check and balances, and we have to trust that the system works. And Wednesday is a new day. I early voted. So in our state, it was just the mayoral election. The competitor of Ali Tyler, who you referenced earlier, is running as a no party, not even as an independent. And I think that alone, friends have told me they're voting for just because she's identifying with no party. They're tired of it. My concern with the election, Mark, is what is going on with this interstate cross-checking, this Chris Kobach, he thinks he's all that Republican attorney general in Kansas, who's put out this thing where they've taken 110 names and they've got it down to 8 million names of people that are potentially double voting in the states of Georgia, Washington, and Virginia. Now they've narrowed it down to 40,000 people they've already blocked whose names have been double crossed, could be eligible to go to jail to prison for 2 to 8 years because they voted in 2 states or in 2 elections. They're blocking 40,000 people in the state of Virginia because they're using names to cross-check like Patel and Kim and Garcia and Jackson. And Google it, Mark. It's really a powerful thing to me because what's happening is they're not even checking if it's junior, senior. They're supposed to check the last 4 digits of their social security numbers. They're not. El Jazeera went out and did a study and interviewed some of these people whose names have been taken off. There's one that's an 85-year-old guy who's handicapped that can't even fly. I know
what you're talking about.
It works me.
And it's an extension of what's already happened. Like in Florida, when they purge the rolls, they're purging based on they're not checking anything. And voter fraud is a hallucination. It is a massive hallucination conjured by the right to disenfranchise voters. There's no threat from voter fraud, and there hasn't been in like 100 years. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. But you're right. We vote and we move on. I early voted, so I have moved on, and you can see I'm still where I'm at.
Good, and I'm going to end on one thing on the voter thing because I want people to know, and this is heretical. I know very few people who agree with me or understand me, but I respect you if you do not vote. If you don't vote, if you decide that you are not obligated to vote for somebody you cannot support just because they're a Democrat or a Republican, you still have a right to complain. This is your country. You're still a citizen. So if you don't vote, I respect you. Our culture is so like, if you don't vote, you can't complain. You can't say anything. You're a loser. It's bullshit. I believe in the right to abstain. I just do. Not everybody does. Very few people do, and especially in our society. But I believe in it. So I wanted to end on that.
And you still have a freedom of expression, and we still are protected under the Constitution to say whatever the hell we want, whether we voted or not.
Absolutely.
They're both rights.
Absolutely.
So I hear you. Mark, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
You too. It's been fiery. I like that. So
happy Halloween.
We'll be back and we'll be talking about who won this election.
We will. We'll see if Ali Tyler, the murderer, wins in Shreveport.
Oh,
I know.
You're throwing a wrench in there. Okay. Next time.
Check her out. All right, guys. Bye.